Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to some of you, wherever you are. Sometimes we deal with, not sometimes, a lot of times we deal with people from different time zones, So I want to welcome everybody, wherever you are watching, either you're watching live or you're going to be watching later on YouTube. Uh, so I just want to say thank you so much. That's going to be the recorded version. We have a bit of a problem with our YouTube. So my YouTube guys are not going to be able to watch it. We're trying to sort that out. So as soon as we finish, I'm going to upload it on YouTube. And then everybody is going to be able to watch it on YouTube. And believe it or not, there are thousands on YouTube that actually most of the viewers that we have here are from YouTube. So I just want to thank you. It's been a while that I actually came live. It's been about a week. So I want to thank you guys so much. I'm going to be doing quite a lot of broadcast between now and next week. Just because, Christmas, I'm going to take time out and be with my family, which is very important. Maybe travel. So brace yourself for it. Today I'm doing two broadcasts. So I'm doing this one right now, Prison to Pulpit. That's what we're going to be talking about now. And then later on tonight at 9 p.m., I'm going to be talking to who we call, the godfather of false prophets in Ghana. Someone who was very instrumental in playing a role in recruiting young and also older false prophets. He was the go-to person for people to come and be able to get some sort of supernatural power, evil powers basically, just so they could grow their church, get famous, and make money the wrong way. So that's what it's all about. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. Yes, I see Faith is here. I see Mosima is here. So please share this link, because we're not on YouTube right now. I'm only going to upload it again because there is a bit of issue with my YouTube channel. But I can upload, but I'm trying to sort out the live broadcast. So please share this with other people. Share this with other people wherever you are. Please share this with other people. So we're not going to waste your time. We're going to have we're good to go. We're going to just go straight and talk about an issue. If you look at the Bible, we always refer to a guy called Joseph. Joseph, the one with the coat with many colors. Joseph was somebody who actually had a very can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, all right. Oh, Emma is here. Yes, we see Namibia in the house. Good evening, Pam Pam. Good evening, Emma. Good evening, Passy. Good evening. Thank you so much. So like I was saying, we have a situation where in the Bible, one of the most fascinating stories is the story of Joseph. We know Joseph, the guy with the coat of many colors, whose brothers were not really, appreciative of his role in the family. And we know that, we always said from the pit to prison, and then from prison to the pulpit. So tonight is about the same situation. Joseph went to prison. Even though Joseph went to prison for things that he didn't really do, he was accused of doing it, or he was just taken to prison. Someone who is like a slave in Egypt. But my guess this evening is someone who was not accused. He actually did what he was sentenced for. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. But it didn't end there. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today he's a preacher, but he's here to share his story with us. So please help me welcome my brother, Thapelo. Thapelo, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come and share my journey. In fact, I always call it a torturous journey to the cross, because each and every human being in the world has a story. Particularly
Yes.
when you become a Christian, you must have a story to tell. Maybe let me begin off by saying this as you will be interrogating me about my life journey. Within the Christian space, we have people who inherited Christianity. They did not repent and come to Christ. So my journey is where I had to meet God. It's a torturous one. So I'm very happy for actually inviting me to come and share this it's quite a painful retrospection, but it doesn't end there in pain. It ends with joy because at the end, God must win.
That's right. That's right. So let's start with your story. You were, Johannesburg born and bred. Tell us about the kind of community you grew up from, and the kind of family you come from. How was your upbringing like?
I was born and bred in Tembisa Hospital, and I was raised in the dusty street of Tembisa. We never had a a shelter of our own. We used to rent,
Mm,
from one place to another. And mind you, I was raised by a single parent. I don't know my biological father. Even to this day, I'm almost 30. I don't know who is my father. So we were raised in extreme abject poverty because my mom, she used to work at the suburbs, as a kitchen girl. You will bring those leftovers for us. And it was very hard growing up in that space. But God, it wasn't an easy journey for me as I was as I was growing up, because sometimes we didn't have food. Sometimes we were in at the border of evictions. Then one day we were evicted and we were, pushed aside. And I recall vividly that I and my parents, for 5 months, almost 6 months, we became homeless. And being homeless, we used to sleep in those unfinished RDP houses that the government was building. So we used to sleep there at night. In the morning, I will bath in the tap, face. But my shirt, white as it was, this time it was as chocolate, it was brown because it was dirty, but I used to cover it with a jersey. I will bath the face in the morning, and my mom will just accompany me to school. And after 5 months, we traveled to a place called Ivory Park next to Midrand, and someone in actual fact sent us there. Upon our arrival there, we consulted the counselor of that area. We shared our story, our struggles and so forth, and we were given a shack. That was 1998, because 1997 we were evicted in Tembis. So 1998, then we found a shack. That's where we began our life. So childhood for me, it was not an easy one, because from the early stage of my development, from the early stage of growth, it was just struggle. It was just trials, tribulations, trepidations. But my mom was there. This is what I love about my story, that my mom, irrespective, regardless of what was taking place, my mom was there with us. That is my childhood experience. It was not an easy one, because 1998, when we arrived at Ivory Park, we begin to, erect a shack for ourselves. And at last, we had a place to stay. I don't know, should I move to the adolescent stage? So in adolescent stage, now we are in Ivory Park, and in Ivory Park, it was not an easy thing. It was
yeah.
tough, it was hard. So I don't know, can I move on in the adolescent stage?
Yes, we just want you to take us. We want to understand your life and why you
Okay.
got into a situation where you had to do a crime, and also get into drugs. So you can move from one stage to another, because the importance of this story, I would call it a testimony, is for us to be able to relate to you and to see what God is doing in your life and to see the mistakes that you made also. But in spite of that, just so we can understand where you are today, as a preacher, and also, and I must say, guys, he just wrote his first book, titled "Prison," from prison to pulpit. We're going to talk about that later. So take us through that phase by phase. You can move to the adolescent stage.
Now, in adolescence stage, I became quite aggressive. I was very
Mm.
aggressive, angry, because I was hanging around with my friends, and the first group I hanged around with, it was a group of people who were well to do. They had food, they had money, they were coming from a good background. And for me, coming from a shack, no food, no proper clothes, it was hard for me to identify, to fit in. Then I started to look for those who are like me, who are struggling like me, who are having problems like me. Then after hanging around, whenever you are in that type of circumstances, whenever you are in that type of situation, the only thing that now you need is what in the psychological fraternity called coping mechanism. So I
Yeah.
needed something now to cope with my existential reality. I started with cigarette, but cigarette, it was not numbing the pain that I was experiencing. So I had to transition from cigarette to Dacha, but Dacha was not enough. I transit again to drugs. Now you have to understand that drugs, it's a habit, and you need to satisfy the habit. That's when I started stealing at home. I used to steal the
Yeah.
10 rand. Mom will put the 10 rand under the carpet. I started stealing items and
What sort
things
of
at
what sort of
home.
drugs? What sort of drugs were you into?
I started with heroin, which is nyaope today.
Mm.
I started with Nyaope. Now, it's a dangerous drugs, because it's one of those drugs that it's a very cruel. It's just dealing with South Africa in a bad way. So Nyaope, it was in actual fact, it was destroying me, because now I had to steal every day. Now I realized that at home there were no, those expensive items that I can sell and exchange for drugs, for this heroin. Then I moved from that. Then I started going out. What I'm sharing is in the book, in actual fact. I started going to a place called Rubber Ridge. It's a colored area that was not far from where I was staying. There in Rubber Ridge, I used to, I will just hide in the bush. There was certain, it was just a bush. The school children, high school children, they will pass in that bush going to school. Then I will ambush them, take their cell phones, take their lunch money, and just to go and satisfy my habit. I recall 2009, we were arrested because we were committing crimes from one crime to another. We were stealing,
Yeah.
robberies, breaking into saloons, stealing from people. 2009, we were arrested, and for 2009, we were arrested for housebreaking and theft. I and my co-accused, and we were sentenced to 10 months imprisonment. My first taste of prison was when I was sentenced 2009 to 10 months imprisonment. So I spent the rest of 10 months behind bars. Mind you, I didn't get visit. Now, let me share with you this. When you are in prison now, you are you are put with other con men, you are put with other criminals, and you begin to listen to their crimes, their story, because it's a time of reflection. It's a time where you are just with yourself and you need to rethink and try to restructure, reorganize yourself. Then it was only then in that state that I listened to other people. I realized that, oh, I was doing just petty crimes. There are people who are doing real things out there. So to me, I realized to say, okay, now when I go outside, perhaps I have to graduate. I have to now tap into another phase of doing crime. 2009, we were released. I went back home. Things were tough at home. Mom was not working. She was working here and there, but the type of job that we were doing, it was not enough to put bread on the table. That's not an excuse, but this is just something that contributes to my journey and to the mischief and the things that I was doing. So it happened that when we came back, now we know prison, we have tattoos, we know the jargon, the lingo of prison. Now we are clever, and we came back to the society. The society was hostile. I was not schooling. I was just, having no direction. My life was just revolving around drugs, around crime. And so I came back twice. I was beaten by a mob justice. Twice. I was beaten by a mob justice. In fact, I should have died when I was beaten by the mob justice. But just
So
by
when
the
you
grace of
came
God,
back,
God intervened.
was that because when you came back, was that because of your theft, or was that because they feel you're a problem in the community? That the mob justice mean a lot of people attacked you and they beat you up. Obviously,
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of people being killed, and sometimes they take a cat tire, and put around the neck of people and set them up and put fire on them. Obviously, burn them alive, isn't it?
yes. In fact, some of my friends, they were burned alive. Some of my
Wow,
friends, they were smashed with stones. It's a real
stone
life
them to
story.
death.
Stoned to death. In fact, I was stoned, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think, no, I'm not thinking. Someone who knew my mom was watching when this was taking place. So he called the police, he called the counselor, and I survive in that in that regard. But I want to take you back into the when I was beaten by a mob justice is not because I was known as a criminal, but I was
Yeah,
beaten by a mob justice because of the things that I was doing. They knew that I was doing. They we broke into a container. We took the entire television systems, radios, new and those Indian, Somalian things. So they knew
I
that
see.
those things were found in my room. They were found in my shack. So I was beaten, and by God's grace, I can only say that I survived. I went to hospital, but I came back. Like a dog returning to its vomit, I went back to my old ways. Crying because maybe let me put it this way. I didn't have anything to do with my life. I was not schooling. I was not working. I
Mm,
was just waking up, smoking drugs, doing crime, drinking alcohol during the weekends times in the parties and the nightclubs and so on and so forth. So my life didn't have any direction. My life didn't have, I didn't know who I am, why I was born, what type of life I was living. So for me, the only option that was left for me is to do crime, because now you have to understand, I'm staying at home. Mom is not working. There's
yeah.
no food at home, and I'm not working, and I'm not even thinking to look for job. I don't have ID by then because I was afraid to go and do ID at the Home Office because of the things that I was doing. I thought maybe I might got arrested while applying for ID. So it was a very tough situation. So I continue with my waywardness. I continue with my lifestyle. Now and then we were chased by the cops because now I started stealing cars. So I started stealing cars in Kimpton Park, Beshley. We used to go to Boxbeck. We will steal cars, bring cars, because now we were connected. People who are doing crime, you have to connect it. You have to connect with the big shots. You have to connect it with those are known for heist, are known for bank robberies, are known. When you are connected, they begin to groom you. To motivate you. They begin to mold you, to advise you, to say how best you can become. I always called myself a tactician when it comes to crime because I became so subtle. I became so manipulative. I used to know how to do, not just go out there and just do something because of the sake of doing it, just for money, but I was schooled in the crime system, in knowing how to do crime. But coming to my crime that now sends me to prison for 15 years, I was called a scout. Now, a
Okay, just
scout
hold
is,
on. Before that, you explain the crime that took you to prison for 15 years, when you were sentenced for 15 years. You had been to prison before, right? Well, you've been to prison for 10 months. I know you've been there for 10 months. Uh, how many times have you been arrested by the police? How many times have you been to prison before the sentence of 15 years? Then you explain to us what you did and what happened.
okay. I've been in prison for many times. Many times. I think they are countless. I can some of them I forgot because we use sometimes we get arrested. We talked with the detectives, we buy the docket. So the docket doesn't go to court because we have paid. We win the case. I just spend some few days, maybe let me say 4 to 5 days in the holding cells of police station. Then
Yeah.
we buy the docket, we go outside. Because now I was connected, I was doing those bigger crimes, those hijacking,
So like real
house robbery.
established crime, professional crime that you have other older people supporting you. They can make a case go away and docket
Yes,
disappear.
yes. So that's how I've been arrested for many things, for armed robbery. The only crime I was specializing on, it was robbery, house robbery, and hijacking and car theft. That's the
Hmm.
type of crimes I was doing. When we get into the town, I can decide because you see, crime is so subtle. It's not like something that you plan you're going to rob this house. I might plan that I'm going to do a house robbery, but when I arrive, in the area, I realized that the spot is tight. I cannot do this. Then I decide to hijack. I decide to steal a car. You see, but that's
Okay.
the type
Okay.
of crimes that I was doing.
Okay. So a lot of times the crime is just spontaneously. Sometimes you just in a place and then you see a car or, it's not just about planning, but it's just also about being proactive. And once you see something that has an opportunity, like that car in a certain place where, look, this is a perfect opportunity to hijack this car, So you hijack cars, you're good in hijacking, and you're good in theft, robbery. How do you sell those products? Do you have a buyer before you go get it? How do you sell it? Do you sell it around South Africa, outside of South Africa?
You sell it in South Africa
Hmm.
because you have people, obviously, like I said, the country, in fact, the world you are living in, it has much corruption. You see, so we
Hmm.
had, in fact, some of the people that were selling cars were cops. Some of the people who were
Really?
giving us deals, they were cops. Some of people were
Wow.
supplying us with guns, were cops, metro police.
Hmm.
So they the ones they will tell us to say we need a Mercedes Benz, this type of Mercedes Benz. So when we come back with the car, they get a share. They will be the one to say, okay, you will need guns. They will give us guns from the police station to say, here's the guns, and we go and we commit the crimes. We come back, we share with them.
Hmm. Hmm. So
Mm.
you definitely have some sort of a corrupt relationship with the police then. But then you were mentored. You were mentored by other people, older people obviously, more professional than you because as a young person, you were learning the trade. Tell me about your relationship with some of your mentors, the older guys, and how they
Yeah,
got you into it and how they encouraged you and all that.
remember, as I alluded earlier on, when I grew up, I realized that I don't know who's my father, who's my
Hmm.
biological father, and that it really damaged my approach to life because the thing that I was fighting with my mother to know my father. So I was angry. I had this nerve, I had this boldness. So that attracted the bigger guys. They realized to say this guy had the potential. This guy had this boldness.
Right.
I could do something that is unimaginable. So they loved me for that because I had this spirit, I had this drive. I can do anything, anytime, anywhere, anyhow. So that's
Hmm.
why they begin to say, no, this young man, we can groom him. In fact, I could say that I had some bosses who will tell, now open the door, take this car. They knew I won't be shivering and all that. I will just do as they say. I will jump and take out the gun and take the car and drove it. And so they like me to say, this guy, I mean, he has that nerve.
Mm, mm. So
So that's
when
how I
you,
was.
yeah,
That,
when
okay.
you, when you, yeah, there's quite a lot. Yeah, when you, when you guys go for a robbery or when you go for a car hijack, how do you prepare? How do you, is there a way that you prepare? Do you normally carry guns or you just go with knives and machetes? Or, and how many of you guys normally go on this? On this, I'm saying this just so also maybe some of our viewers would also know, which is something we're going to talk about. Maybe you kind of take us through, to educate people how to identify, when you're a safe place, just so you don't be you're not hijacked. You know what I'm saying? Uh, how do you make sure you drive safely? How do you make sure at home you stay safe? And robbers, when you don't give robbers the opportunity when they come to rob you.
One of the things that we normally we used to do, we follow you until you get to your place. As soon as you open the gate and your car comes in, we come with you. So that's how it
Mm,
works. So for the viewers and who are listening, you need to be observant of who's behind you, who's following you, because I can guarantee you, people who are doing this, you can clearly identify them that these are criminals. By the way we're driving, we are always chasing you. We are always here. And you can clearly identify those people who are doing those type of things. But and
mm,
another way how we were doing these things, for instance, sometimes I can't guarantee that sometimes we will shock you. Like for
mm,
instance, you will stop right at the stop sign, and we are just behind you, and I mean we were just driving cool and calm and collected, and you never anticipated for such thing that will happen. We will just come and block you in front, and because you are not anticipating something like that, you are in a state of shock. Then we are already out with guns and we are pointing and we just take you out of the car. Sometimes, if we see you are a white person and we know a white person has a lot of money, we take you with us, we kidnap you, we withdraw your money and all that. And some of the guys that I was traveling with, they were so cruel, they will rape, they will do all those kind of things, sometimes even murder.
mm, 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 mm. So he was you guys are well armed and very, very ready, obviously. So take us
Yeah,
to that. Yeah.
no, I'm saying the reason why we were armed, guns were not necessarily used for crime. We are using them in the crime just to frighten the victims to get the stuff. But the guns and the weapons, we are using it for a getaway. Because
Mm,
now we know that we will have to do a getaway. There will be a chase, there will be a gunfight back and forth with the police. So we need to be armed so that we can have a getaway.
mm. I see. So let's go to the incident that got you sentenced to 15 years in prison. You served your sentence in Johannesburg prison. Was it here you served your sentence?
Yeah, I started in Sun City, Johannesburg Correctional Service, but because I was young, maximums they have their own prison, which is Boksburg Prison,
Okay.
which I noted that you once visited that prison.
Yes, yes. I do a bit of prison ministry, so I've been
Yeah,
to a
I
couple of
did
the
saw
prisons around.
some video there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So how
uh,
old were you? How old were you before you even tell us the incidents that got you arrested? How old were you when you started this whole thing, crime? And and how old were you when you got sentenced to 15 years in prison?
let me take you back. I started at the early age when I was 9 years. Because
9.
at the age of 9 years, we used to run away with my brother,
Hmm.
my blood brother. We used to live in the streets of Edenvale,
You
and we
sleep
will
on the
grow.
streets.
Yes, because of we were like it was hard at home. It was hard, and we could see that our mom, she was trying hard, but it was hard to adapt as a young person, as a lad growing up. So we used to run away because sometimes there was no food, and there in turn we will beg for money from the white people. Late at night we will break into white people's shops, restaurant, those takeaway shops, and we will steal money and. uh 2001, we were taken to a place in Benoni because we were arrested again with my brother. We were taken to a place called Van Rijn Place of Safety. It's a government facility. Today is known as Mary Moodley in Benoni, Mackenzie Park. So we're
Mm,
taking that place is it has children who come from different backgrounds, issues. Some they were abused, some they were molested, some they were raped, some committed crimes, some they are naughty. So we were put there. It was just a place of resuscitation, a place of recuperation, a place for us to rethink, and in fact, it gave us a better a starting, because there were birds, there were food. We were going to places like Gold Reef City. We got pocket money. They took us to school. It was not a prison, so to speak. You
mm,
see, so I started at the age 9. But what I mean by the age 9, I started with small things because you cannot go and hijack a car while you didn't steal a 2 rand at home. So
mm,
you see, there's a build up. There's something that is building you to that higher level.
mm, mm. And then when you got arrested and sentenced to 15 years in prison, how old were you and what happened?
I was 22, 21, 22. You see, I was just this junkie. I was this criminal. Now I could even go by myself and do things because now I did study the suburb. I knew the suburb. So I was a scout. So a scout is a person who operate as a syndicate, is a
Mm,
person who operate as a person who investigate. I will investigate you, what time you are leaving your house, what time you are coming back, how many people are living in the house, how many are going to school, and I will investigate you to say maybe where. Sometimes I will even follow you to see, okay, this person has a business, this person is this type of person. Then I will come back to those older guys with the
mm.
information to say, this is the type of person. This person, he seems to be having his own business because during the day around 9 o'clock he comes back at home. I'm talking about the crime that led me to 15 years in
Yes,
prison.
yes, yes,
So Parkview in Johannesburg, next to Zulek, that house, it's just the opposite. It's Zulek this side, is that house this side. It's the main road that takes you to Jan Smart's Avenue. Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
this a white person, he was driving a Land Rover. He was I don't know, perhaps he was a businessman. I cannot tell, but he seems to be this businessman. And I went to the guys. I told the guys to say, guys, this he has money. He seemed to be having money, and around this time is a better time for us to go there. And yes, we got there. We jumped over the wall. We spread. We get into the house. Unfortunately, he was up there, relaxing. There's a jacuzzi up there. He was just
Yeah.
relaxing and refreshing himself. And I was downstairs. I remember the crime vividly. I was downstairs. The guys up there, they stabbed this man because I think he tried to fall from the balcony. So they grab him and they begin to stab. 24 holes, unfortunately. He died on the crime scene because when I got up there, there was just a pool of blood lying there. Then I realized to say, yeah, this is
Okay.
crime now.
Let's stop there. So you, how many of you guys were there? Like five, six of you guys invaded the
Five.
house? Five. And then you were downstairs with maybe another
Yes.
person. And then the other part of
Yes.
the team went upstairs. And then, I mean, obviously, you said the guy was in the jacuzzi and now he saw them. Obviously, he wanted to run away. They cut him and they stabbed him basically. Like
Mhm.
24, like he died there even without going to the hospital.
Mhm.
And you went there, it was all blood.
Mhm. So when I saw the blood, I realized to say now, yeah, I can see now we are going to face the music. So I went downstairs. When I was downstairs, I looked through the window. I don't know what happened. I think perhaps, maybe, just maybe, the neighbor saw us when we jumped the hall. Because when I looked through the window, I saw the 24/7 arm response. First car, second car,
I
third car.
see.
Then I realized that now, we are in a big mess. I didn't tell the guys. I
Mm,
hide myself
mm, mm,
behind a cupboard, you know.
mm.
Then, and one of the guys, I think two guys, hide. So because we were five of us, so three of us were hiding. Then the other two tried to, they tried to run away. They tried to run away, but unfortunately they were gunned down in the crime scene and they died there. I mean,
They
my
gunned them
co-accused.
down.
Yeah,
Okay,
they were
so
shot.
two of your team members on that robbery that night, they got shot and they died
No,
after
it was not
stabbing
at
the.
night.
It was
It
not
was
even at
during the
night,
day. It was
during the
around
day,
9:10 in the morning.
in the morning. Why did you
Yes.
choose that time of the day?
No, because in the suburb, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so in the suburb, around that time, it's quiet. People are at work. It's quiet. People are at school. People
Yes.
are, it's a good time for people who are doing crime. Many things happen at that time around 10, 9, 8, 11. But around 12, 1, we know people, it's busy in the suburb, people are awake, and there's too much business. But around 10, 9, 8, it's the good time for criminals. That lot of things happen around that time.
Okay. Okay. So continue. Now they gunned down two of your team members, and then what happened?
Then there was a search in the house, of course. Approximately that lasted around about 15 to 20 minutes, as far as I can recall. And
Where
yeah,
were
we
you
were
then?
found. I was hiding in the house behind the cupboards and everything. So my friends was found first. They tie him with the cable tires, and the second one was found tied with the cable tires. And I was found only when the police arrived,
Mm.
because there was too much backup. There were too much police. It was too much a scene. So I was found and I was obviously tied with the cable tires. And yes, I was taken out and we were beaten severely. And we were asked how many things we have done, how many crimes we have committed in that suburb and all that. But to which we didn't respond to anything that we were asked. We were charged with house robbery, uh, unlicensed of possession of firearms, and a murder. But now, when we get to court, as we were, awaiting trial, because we awaited trial for about 1 year, 6 months. I was young, remember. I was
Mm.
young, I was a juvenile among this. So I was taken to, my case was run by what we call NICRO. NICRO is a system that provides social workers. They investigated my history. They investigated to say what got me to those type of things that I was doing at the early age that I was, because that time I was 20 years when we committed a crime. But when I was sentenced, I'm not sure it was 21 or
21,
22, but
22.
in between,
Yes. Yes.
in
Yeah.
between. Then
So
when at court,
because you were a juvenile, so you had to await trial. Did they keep you in a juvenile center?
yes, because now I was 18 years, I was at Sun City Juvenile. I was in prison, but in Sun City there's a juvenile section in awaiting
Yes.
trial, but it's still prison.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. So now you're in court, and then there was a sentence.
Yeah, in court I became a state witness. I turned against those older guys. I turned
Okay.
because, in fact, I didn't turn. The way I was relating my story, and how it happened. I was trying to save myself, but in so doing, I was drowning those guys.
I
So
see.
in court, I they were sentenced to life
So there,
imprisonment.
so two got shot on the crime scene and they lost their lives. So there was three of you, and you obviously you were telling your story to save yourself. So which the state really, appreciated that. And the two were older than you, and they got sentenced to life in prison.
Mhm.
Both of them, and then you
Yes,
got 15 years.
yes.
How did you feel when the judge sentenced you to 15 years?
To be honest with you, if you visited Gold Reef City, there's a there's something there that we call a merry-go-round.
Yes.
I felt like I was riding in a merry-go-round. Why? Because no one was there to support me at court. Family, friends. I was just alone. I
Mm.
didn't get visit in my awaiting trial. And I started blaming everybody. I was looking for a scapegoat. I started blaming my mom. I started blaming my mom for not telling me the truth about my father. I remember when I was going down after the verdict was read out, as I was leaving the dock, stepping down, going back to the holding cells, knowing that now I'm going to spend 15 years in prison. There was a Nigerian guy who got 35 years for rhino poaching. So we
Wow.
met there at court. It was a judgment day for us.
Yes.
So I asked this Nigerian man to say, man, can I just make a phone call just to let my family know that what happened with me? So
So
I
the your,
called and
your family was not even aware that you were sentenced, or they were not aware that you were in prison.
no, they knew that I was in prison because I used to call them at home.
Okay.
They knew
Okay.
that I was in prison, but they
Okay.
didn't know what happened on that particular day because they didn't even had 20 rand to come to Johannesburg to listen to the court case the way we were poor. So
What was your
yes, and
relationship? What was your relationship with your mother at that stage of your life?
yeah, to be honest with you, my mom knew why we were the person we were, but she tried. I don't want to lie, she was not supporting what we were doing. But
Mm.
the boy child, I'm
Mm.
messed up. I'm angry. I'm angry for my biological father. I'm angry with life. The reason why you always saw, you find those thugs, those criminals are committing such horrific crimes is because of anger that they are carrying. They become so inconsiderate of what they are doing. I didn't care. This is my life. I didn't care who says what. The crimes that I was committing, I didn't care. I can hurt you, I can step you, whether you die or not, it's up to you and God
Mm.
and the rest of it. For me, I thought each and everybody is owing me because now life has dealt a devastating blow to me. So now I'm taking my anger out of people, out of my victims, out of that. So my relationship with my mom, it was quite well. It's just that my mom, she was stressing, she was
Mm.
depressed because she knew that sometimes she can be called and told, Thapelo is lying there dead, come take the corpse.
Wow. Wow.
Y- you know
Wow.
so my mom,
Wow.
like, she was very supportive. She will call, I will ask some airtime when I was in prison. Sometimes there was no money, but on that specific day she broke down.
So you
She
got the
literally,
phone from the Nigerian guy who was sentenced to 35 years for rhino poaching. You got you're asking for his phone, and he obviously gave you the phone to make a phone call. So you called your mother, is it?
yes.
And what was the conversation between the two of you?
My conversation, I said, Mom, I just got sentenced. Hmm. The reason why I'm feeling like this, my mom, she's no more, and yeah, because you're taking me back, and it's quite emotional thing. My mom, I said, Mom, I just got sentenced to 15 years in prison. Then there was a pregnant pause. There was a silent, but me listening, I could hear she's still there, but there's this silent, and her intonation was so low.
Mm.
And she said, I've been talking to you, Thapelo. I'm tired. I know I didn't give you guys a better life, but I tried as a mom. This is the life you chose, and you will have to face the music. Then that's what it did. She dropped the phone. I only spoke to her after 4 years, 8 months. From
Mm.
that day, I went to Sun City. I arrived at Sun City, and yeah, they took my clothes, they gave me those orange overalls.
So
Then
for
I
those of you
went.
guys, that we have quite a lot of people who are not South Africans watching from the USA or wherever. So Sun City is like one of the most notorious prisons in South Africa. It's in Johannesburg. So just so you know, when he said Sun City, it's not a place for fun. It's a place of incarceration. Yes, continue.
Yes, yes. So I got into prison. Now we are tapping into another segment of this story. Now I'm in prison. Now you have to understand, okay,
Before we even get to your life in prison, and then we finish that up, and then we get to your life now. You've written a book. You're launching the book on Saturday called "From Prison to Pulpit." Today, you are a preacher with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. You travel, you talk to people, you talk in churches. As we close that chapter of your life, that door of your life, uh, if I ask you to calculate for me now without a calculator, how many houses and homes have you broken into? How many cars have you hijacked in your life of crime? Would you be able to give me a number?
well, when it comes to hijacking, I didn't do much of hijacking. I
You
didn't
didn't
do
do
much
much. Like,
of,
how many are we talking about?
maybe I could say approximately 10.
Okay.
I could say. I could say because
But house
for
house
me,
robbery was your specialty.
yeah, the specialty was house breaking, house
Yes.
robbery. Because sometimes you break into a house, you only find out someone is in the house. Now it's no longer a house breaking, it's a house robbery because someone is in the house. So for
Yes.
my specialty was house breaking, because while in the house you get things like jewelry, you get things like gadgets, laptops, and you name it. So I love, for me, I didn't love shedding blood. I didn't love killing and all that. For me, I just loved to get the gadgets, to get those small things, that was my specialty. So when it comes to hijacking and these aggressive crimes, I will join the guys, because most of the aggressive crimes that I was involved in, it was only when I had these big guys. Because now they
Okay.
they use muti, they are Zulus, they have the belts, the
Wow.
Zulu guys, they have the belts, they are going to nyangas, traditional doctors, and all that. So I
To get
used to,
protection.
when I was involved in the horrific crimes, it's only when I have these big guys.
Have you ever been taken to maybe a witch doctor for you to even get some powers, some protection in some of your robberies?
Yes, yes, we did went to those guys, and we will tell them that we are going. For some time those things they work, but for me, I was born and bred in a Christian environment. My mom
Mm.
was a ZCC, ZCC church.
Yes.
ZCC Church. So I was, I didn't believe much in the mutis, and in fact, to be honest with you, I know it might sound contradistinctive. I used to pray to God when I was doing my things. I will ask literally to say, Father Lord, please, I need to come with this car. But only today I realized that I was praying to the devil, not to God.
No, I understand you totally. I'm Nigerian, so I've seen people going on a crime project, and they actually go to church and get prayed for, or give some money, just so they can be able to successfully commit their crime, and God protects them. I don't understand how that works, just like you, but that's just the way that it is. It just shows the devotion that you have, that in spite of that, you still believe there's a God, you know. So how
Mm.
many houses would you say you broken into? 50,
Countless.
100?
No, no, no. Countless. I've from a shack, from breaking those saloon shacks. That's where I started.
Yeah,
Containers,
until you
shops,
got to the city,
Somalian
the suburb.
shops. You know, you talk about Somalian shops, you talk about business butler, all like countless. You come now to those township houses. In township there's always that area where it's more, I think, it has people of the middle class, but it's in the
Affluent.
township. Yeah,
Yes,
so
more affluent.
we were moving from the squatter camps, the shack sites. We were going there. We still there. We come this side. But the reason why I started going to the suburbs, I realized that my friends were killed now and then by the community, by the mob justice. So I realized
Okay.
to say, I don't want to die, because some of them I witnessed their death while they were stoned to death. I was there in the crowd without them knowing that I'm there. So I realized I don't want to die like a dog. So I said, maybe let me go to the suburbs, because in the suburbs, what's happening in the suburbs, you can get shot or you can be killed by the victim, maybe trying to defend himself. But I knew that in the suburb, they won't burn you with a tire. They
Mm.
won't stone you unless you find those white bure vas, those bure, and they are the ones who can maybe kill you
Kill you,
in a
yes.
painful death. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're in prison. How was the life like in prison?
I always say this, that prison, each and every inmate, each and every offender must hustle for its own bone. Each and every dog must hustle for its own bone. You can get stabbed for nothing. You
Mm.
didn't disrespect anyone. You didn't say anything wrong to anyone. Just because someone has been told by the gang camp that you need to be initiated, you need to be this general. In order for you to do that, you need to go and step that person, so that we can see that you have this nerve, you have this boldness to do that. And
Yeah.
I came to prison. I studied the life of prison, how it operates, and like how the same thing that happened outside, the poverty that I was facing outside, it followed
Mm.
me in prison. Now I'm in prison. Prison is hard. You need toiletry, you need visitation, you need coffee, you need tea, you need sugar, you need all those things, because prison food, we call them steam course, meaning it's steam food. They don't last long in your stomach. Then I realized to say that, because in order to survive in prison, you must have some kind of like business. You must sell those cigarettes, you must sell the BB, you must sell Dacha, you must have a way of, smuggling and all that. Now, I didn't have money to even start with. Now, what do? I became angry, because when you don't have anything in prison, like even outside here, you get disrespected easily. Someone can just call you and say, come mop here, come clean the toilets, come. You can be waking up. You see, prison, we wake up around 5 o'clock, but you can be waking up at 3 o'clock just to clean, because people take advantage of your situation. So I
Mm.
decided to say, no, I will not. I won't allow anybody to take advantage of me. I started to be aggressive. I remember, but this happened when I was moved from Sunset, because I didn't spend much of a time in Johannesburg Correctional Service, because it's for adults, and I was a juvenile. But I was moved to Boksburg Prison, maximum facility. So there I realized to say, no, I need to show these guys that I can stand, and they realize when I step someone in a cell. I step someone with a glass window. I broke a glass window and I still have the scars here in my hands. Then I stepped this guy, and the gang camps, they begin to see, to say, hey, this guy, he's bold, man. This guy, he has this character of being a gang. Then I was initiated into a gang called the 26. Now, this you will find is in my book. I wrote different type of gangs, because in prison you have the big fives. You have the 26, the 27, the 28, the Air Force 3, the Air Force 4. Now, the Air Force 3 and the Air Force 4 are different. The Air Force 3, their philosophy of life in prison is to escape from prison. They are always, their philosophy, their doctrine of their gangsterism, it tells them that they need to escape from prison. But you find that they rarely escape from prison. They are always there. They spend their sentence in prison until they get their day to go outside. Then you have the Air Force 4. The Air Force 4 are the ones that are recruited from the 28th. Now, the 28th in a Zulu language is called Mageba. I don't know what does that mean, but it's just a name from a Zulu tribe called the Zulus, the Magebas. There are the 28th. Now, the philosophy of the 28th is to rape, is to have to have wife in prison. What do I mean by that? I mean a man becoming a wife of another man. That's life in prison. Then you have the 27. They shed blood. They don't play. They are always stepping. They are always in chains. They are always in the single cells. They don't stay in bigger sections because of the things that they are doing. Then you have the 26. Now, the 26 are the manipulators. The 26 are the sweet talkers. I joined that because I realized that I was gifted in talking. I will talk you out. I will come to you and just tell you that next week, my family, they are coming. Please borrow me this 320 of cigarette. I'm gonna pay you. Listen, trust me. And people, they will trust smoothly, and I will take your cigarette, not knowing that no one is going to visit me. Now, I'm in Boksburg prison. I stepped this guy, and I was called by this guy to say, Mfetu, your way of doing, your character, man. We need people like you in our camp. Then obviously I was told to say, but we want to see that you can do that. I was given, a soap in prison, it's a weapon. A toothbrush in prison, it's a weapon, because we can sharpen it in a way that it becomes sharper, and it's deadly. A soap, I can put it in a socks and swing it into someone's head, and I can hurt you. So that's what happened normally. I stepped this person. This guy didn't do me anything. He didn't even know that I was coming for him. But I came for him, I chose him, and I stepped him. And the wardens and the backup, the ST, they came in numbers. I was beaten and taken to the single cell. When I came, they put me a tattoo of 26. They say, man, now you are in Caesar, meaning you are a man now. You are part of us. Then anything, I will go to the other guys who are part of the gang group. The life that was happening outside, it's now happening in prison. The life that was happening outside, I find it now in prison. I'm in another gang. I'm still living a life that I used to live outside. But now it's limited because of the confinement. It's limited because now we are in prison. There are boundaries, there are limitations. And it so happened that the same thing that attracted me to the older guys outside, who then groomed me and molded me into crime outside. I find it in prison. People, they decided to say, this guy has a nerve. This guy is a man. This guy is insistent. This guy, he's a real guy, man. You see, he can step, he can talk to the cops. He's not scared of the wardens. Look, his age is very young. We love his spirit. And I was used again in prison, because many a times I will do things, but oftentimes I am the only one who is beaten every time.
mm,
All these guys, and the philosophy of the gangsterism is that you don't confess your brother, you don't talk about him when you are caught alone. You need to stand like a man. And when you come back, they will say, hey, man, you are in cis, or you are a man, you are the real man. But I realized that I was getting beaten now and then by the wardens. I realized that no, man, something is wrong about this thing, because these guys oftentimes I'm just being used here, because when I bring these things, we are all smoking. But when the wardens, when the correctional facilities facilitators come, I am the only one who is getting beaten. And they beat you with that a kinopnir, or a donkey peer, I don't know what you call it, those things that the wardens normally put, even the security guard, I don't know what
yeah.
is called in English, those things. So I was beaten, and I realized that I might lose my teeth here. I might get crippled, because those guys, when they arrive, they beat you. You spend 3 to 4 weeks without working, without eating. Then I realized to say, no, 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 no. I can't stand this. I'm tired of this life. So that's when I moved from what I call the turning point. The
Mm,
turning point is that it's where now I was tired. I was really tired of the life outside. I was tired for what was happening now in prison. I was tired. I was really tired. Then I start asking, those philosophical questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Why was I born? What is the meaning of life? Then that's the journey of my investigation and excavation and searching, because I was searching for meaning. I knew for a fact that if I can be released today from
mm,
prison, three
mm,
months down the line, I will be back in prison. So I you see, for me, I didn't need some kind of psychological analysis. Those people who you will come and psychoanalyze you and all that. I needed something that was beyond, because why? I've been in rehabs. I've been, I've been in sangomas. I've been in prayed for by preachers, by people, but nothing worked until I find myself in prison. Now I'm moving to another segment now, but within the confinement, there was a guy, an Englishman from United States, was serving 3 years because this guy, this is quite amazing. This guy, he was rich outside. He was driving Ferraris. He was driving the Maseratis. He was just arrested for drugs. And for
mm,
me, he was on a vacation because he didn't feel the pain. He was paying cops. He was paying everybody. He was eating good food. He was just sleeping. When we are ready for counting, he was just sleeping there. They will say, "Hi, he's sick." The cops will speak. They will just try to talk for him and all that. Every time he got visit, every weekend, because those who are in saving time, they get visit only in weekend. So every time he's going to visit, and I was watching him closely because I was staying with him in a cell. Every time when he's coming back, he comes back with a book, novels. So I love reading because I know growing up, my mind, I was brilliant. I never failed a class. I never failed a class. I love reading. So I started to say, let me just read. After I smoke dacha, I will take his books, borrow his books, and I will read the books. Novels are good books, but for me, novels, they were more informative than transformative. There was no power there to change my life, because for me, a novel book for me was just, I was just like watching a movie, but happening in my mind.
mm,
After reading that book, I was just empty and helpless. Then someone gave me a Bible. The first day I arrived in prison, someone gave me a Bible, but I didn't read it. until after 3 years, 8 months in my
Wow.
sentence.
Wow.
Then one day I was just sitting there. My mom was sick outside to the point of death. My sister was 17 years, no, 18 years with 2 kids. There was no food. Different father. They just gave their children and they left. There was no food at home. My mom was depressed, stressed. I'm in prison. I'm getting calls from my sister to say mom is dying. She's in hospital. They were giving me details. She came back home. She's doing fine. She's eating. All those kind of details about her and all that. And those things, they just killed me. I remember I was sitting there on my bed, we call it scaffold. I was just thinking about life because for me, I was searching for meaning. I wanted to know why we are here on planet Earth. What are we doing here? What is the meaning of life? Is there an objective point of reference that can give meaning to my existing reality? Then I
Mm.
opened the Bible for the first time. I didn't know where to start, but by God's grace, someone recommended the book of Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes, it's one of those fascinating books that they have helped me in the journey of my conversion. I read, and the opening line was, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Then I started to tap into the mind of the author Solomon. Then for me, this book was speaking to life, was speaking to my life, and it was speaking the things because now I wanted meaning. And the verse that caught my eye is found there in that book in chapter 7, verse 29, where Solomon says, "Lo, this only have I found, that God made men upright, but they have sought out many inventions." Then I look at that text not as a theologian, as a scholar, but as a broken man in prison who is searching for meaning. Then I'm reading this text and I'm like, God, then if you are God, why did I have the starting point that I had? Why did you allow my father to leave me in my infancy stage? Why? 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 Then there was
Mm.
a friend of mine in my cell who said, "Okay, Thapelo, you know what? There's a church that you can attend every Saturday, which you mentioned, the Seventh-day Adventist." Then I started attending the church. Then I found myself for the first time in a house where I will listen to the word of God. I remember one of the elders recommended for me to read Romans chapter 7. I read that text and it just transformed my life. Where Paul says, "The things that I want to do, I do not do, but those things that I do not want to do, the things that I hate, is that what I do." For me, deep down in my heart, I had dreams. I had visions, aspirations, and ambitions. I wanted to become a better person. In fact, what I'm saying is in my book. Growing up, I used to play soccer. I was so talented to the extent that I even met a professional guy who went to England and spent almost 10 to 15 years in England and came back. He was playing for Everton FC by the name of Stephen Pienaar. He's a colored guy who grew up in Westbury. For me, I had talent, I had dreams. Maybe let me put it this way for the viewers who are listening. No one from their infancy stage dreamt to be a prostitute. No one dreamt to be a drunkard. No one dreamt to be a robber. No one dreamt to be an addict. Something fundamentally wrong happened along their growth, along their development. No one who is sane dreamt to just take drugs and inject it to their body. No one dreamt that life. But because of the things that happen within our life, listen, there's no excuse for the things that I did. And I'm not proud of those things. There's no excuse why, because there are people who grow up in poverty. There are people who grow up without their father figures within their life and so on. But they decided to make a difference with their life. They went to school, they graduated. There's some of them who didn't have money. There are some of them who didn't like what was taking place. So for me, my brother, brother Eson, I'm not making an excuse here. I'm not saying the things that I did, I'm proud of them. I'm not proud of those things. There's no justification here. I am wrong as the sun is shining, as we know. But then I decided now to make a turn. I wanted to change. Then, for me to change, I had to be genuine. I had to face myself. I had to admit that I was wrong. I had to
Mm,
admit that I hurt many people. I have to admit that Thapelo. And this is the hardest part, because why? Most of people, they play victims. They try to blame something else. They try to blame their fathers. They blame their circumstances. They blame their mothers. And when I decided to say, Thapelo, you were wrong. You are the one who were wrong. And that was the hardest thing ever I could do.
mm. Wow, this is quite intense, and what a life. We only have 10 minutes to go, but I want to ask you now, you came out of prison after so many years, and how was life been in prison? I know sometimes when a prisoner comes, or an inmate comes out of prison, you life tends to be difficult. People don't trust you, or they don't want to give you a job. There are no opportunities because you have a criminal record and all that kind of thing. So answer that, and then we talk about your book to close it.
Yes, to go back for me, and this is my line, this is my statement that I love to say, that only Christ was big enough to cleanse my heart and to forgive me all that I have done. Only Christ
Mm,
was big enough. He stepped in space time history and he redefined my life. He gave me meaning. But coming
mm,
out of prison now, where I have to now live my life, where I have to now face the world, remember, I have to face some of the people that I have wronged. I have to go visit people, ask some sorries, ask some forgiveness. Whether they accept it or not, it is up to them. I
mm,
didn't mind whether they will accept it. I didn't mind whether they will take it. For me, I really decided to say, you know what happened? I want to right my wrongs. I want to face my reality. But again, I come, and this is what I'm having a problem with the correctional systems, because why? They talk about rehabilitation and reintegration into the society, of which for me is quite a contradiction. But at the end of the day, this is my life. I don't have to blame it to the correctional system, because why? In prison, there were skills that we were trained. For instance, carpentry and all that. In prison, we were given some programs so that when we come outside, we can better our lives. But we have this stigma attached to us, which is a criminal record. For instance, I have a PDP license now. I try to do the Uber, because I'm not working, And the
yeah.
Uber, they rejected me. They say, man, you have a criminal record. We can't employ you. So for those who are prisoners, I want to say this without a shadow of a doubt. When you don't have an opportunity, you create opportunity, because first and foremost, I put myself in those circumstances. I went and robbed people. The cops, the wardens, they didn't go home and pick me up and put me in prison. I put myself in this predicament. So I had to find a way to deal, because even to this day, you see, I'm writing my second book. It's called Turning My Stigma into a Staircase. That means you turn your past into a staircase to reach the mountaintop. What you take what is designed to break you down, you use it as a weapon to get at the top.
Mm,
So for me, I decided to use my past. So I realized that I can't get the better jobs, and it's hard for me. Even those lower jobs, I'm not choosing here because I'm not that educated. So I realized
Mm.
that even those jobs, people, they don't trust me. I'm from prison, and I have to live with that psychologically. I need to understand that I myself put myself in those situations. Then I decided to sit down with a pen and book, laptop, and just typing. I start writing a book called From Prison to Pulpit.
Yeah, and this is a copy of the book, From Prison to Pulpit. Now, for everybody watching, a lot of what he shared is in and more is in this book. So that's the copy of the book there. He's also holding. So if you want to get a copy, I'm gonna put his number, and we actually had his number. Philly put his number earlier on. Please get a copy. There's so much more that we cannot get the time to talk about here, and you can hear from him, and you know that he's some sort of a preacher already. So you're going to be able to read these stories and be encouraged. Maybe you need to get the copy and give it to somebody else, and maybe you just want to support him because you come out of prison, you have a criminal record. Like he said, Uber couldn't let him drive, so you have to make a way for yourself. There only a few people would give you a job. Technically, you're not even supposed to be. You're not employable. That's just what it is. So maybe you just want to encourage him. And by the way, you're married, right? Are you
Yes.
married now? Yeah, you're married. You have kids.
Yes, one daughter.
All right. He's married. He has one daughter. So he's a responsible person. He's a family man. So obviously, it's not just for him, but also to be able to take care of his family. This book is launching on Saturday. This coming Saturday, is going to be launching at the Seventh Day
No,
Adventist Church,
I
SDA.
didn't.
Sorry?
No, I
Sunday,
said the
rather.
book is it's launched already.
It's lunch already. Okay. But then you
Yeah,
have an
just
event
this
on
Sunday.
Sunday. You have an event on Sunday. On Sunday, as the SDA church, just opposite Leoco Prison. Can you imagine? You're still hanging around prisons, right? So if you know Leoco Prison in Sunning Hill in Johannesburg, the book is going to be launching there at, is it 2 p.m., right?
No, the book has already been launched.
Oh, sorry. You're going to have an event that you're going to be able to talk about the book.
Yes.
Yes, and talk about the book, and this is actually so it's people can call you anyway to get more information, but tell us about the support that you're getting for the book from the book, and also a little bit about the event on Sunday.
Yeah, obviously I'm looking forward for people to for me, like I said, for me, this is not about money. That's why you have these charlatans and shenanigans and pastors who are after money. For me, it's not about money. I'm not here for money. I'm here to make a difference in my life, because now I do public speaking. This is what I specialize on. I go to schools, I go to prisons, I go back to those guys who, and maybe let me say this before we close. The reason why we have many offenders re-offending and going back to prison is for this fact that there's no support structure for them outside, and they themselves, they are waiting for people to feed them in the mouth than waking up and trying to put things together for themselves. So if you will go to prison, I guarantee you, my brother, that 98% of those prisoners are repeated prisoners. They are reoffending again and again because outside there's no support structure for them to stand. So that's why for me, I will urge and ask for people to buy in numbers the book, so that I want to send them back to prison so that I can go back, print another books and take them to prison so that we can reach as many people, because it's not, maybe, let me just put the book in perspective in 2 minutes. One, I'm writing in the book to a child who is born in poverty, because I was born in poverty. I'm writing to a child who is growing up without a father figure. I'm writing to an adolescent child who is troubled because of the circumstances at home, because of the meat ends are not there, the food are not there. I'm writing to a child who is on drugs, who's taking drugs, and I want them to see lessons in my life, the consequences of taking those drugs. I'm writing to a person who is now in prison, who is serving time, and he thinks that everything is over. Man, it's only the beginning. You can ask me. I'm writing to a person who is in prison, and I'm writing to a Christian. Anyone who calls himself a Christian, this book, it can even inspire you, because it really shows that God is real. God came in time, and I am transformed by the renewing of the mind. I'm writing to a Christian. I'm writing to again a prisoner who now is released and is going outside to face the inhospitable world, to face the hostility of the world, because they won't accept you with open arms. And this is the reality that we need to accept as ex-offenders, and understand that people, they deserve, the society deserves to frown because what we have wronged. And don't accept that people will just forgive you overnight. You need to take accountability and responsibility. So this book, it can help those people who are in prison, so that they can come back and stop reoffending, because once they come outside and they realize that they cannot make ends meet, they cannot create, they always revert to what they know best, which is crime. So it will help them. I'm involved in programs. There's an organization that I work with, and there's a guy that in Tate, you talk, Apostle Mercado, the one with a book called Church Mafia. We were talking in the phone. We want to start some rehabilitation center and all that. There's some things that I'm involved. I'm not sitting down waiting for people to give me hands out, because I realize sometimes it can even block me. It can even, I am standing on my feet trying to work things out. Yes, I can accept help. Yes, but the only thing I ask is the support of the book, so that I can take it to prison. I can take it to schools. I can take it. Those who want to come on board and partner with me, I will really appreciate, to perpetuate and reach lives.
Thank you, brother. You've said it all. A lot of things that I wanted to say. You've said it. But please, let's support him. Buy copies, so he can take it to prison. Just buy 10 copies and say, no, you can take it to prison. Buy a copy for yourself. There's something in there for you. Buy copies so for people around, people that are struggling, younger people that are struggling. Get a copy. And if you want to know a lot about the projects that he does his number there. If you want to buy a copy, that's his number there. And also, please, if you have any opportunity for him to speak, he does a lot of public speaking in schools, in youth groups, in communities, that kind of stuff. Please reach out to him, invite him so he could come speak. Or if you know people that could want to use him because of his kind of story. And the good part of it is his kind of story is centered around Christ, and which is very, very important. So, brother, I want to really thank you for just sharing your story and just being truthful. And I wish you, all the best. And like I said, before we came on here, in any way I can support you, most definitely, I would be there to make sure that I support you, to maybe help you get some media platforms that you would keep also going in and sharing your story and impacting people. So thank you so much, Thapelo.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. This is just the guys on Facebook. The guys on YouTube, I'm going to upload it tonight on YouTube just so they could watch it. Like I said, we have a bit of a problem with our YouTube. So some of you guys who are here and would want to check out our YouTube, check it out on YouTube, please go there and subscribe. And I hope to see you in about an hour, 30 minutes. I would be talking to someone who was, he was, it's called the godfather of false prophets in Ghana. So please catch you again at 9 p.m. That is South African time. That is in about an hour, 30 minutes. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful evening. See you later.